Okay, so I'm going to this chiropractor now 3 times a week, and I came home yesterday like really overwhelmed because so I'm very close with my family, and for the past few years I've been helping my parents with some pretty big transactions having to do with a business and a home, and I realized yesterday some movement happened on those both those transactions. Like it was odd, like I got an email from someone who's working on this environmental agency for this business that's a gas station, and kind of it's been pretty messy, and yeah, haven't heard about it in months, and things need to move forward. And so I was getting a little anxious, but I was guided like, you don't need to call, just wait. And he got in touch with me yesterday. And then this house that we have been trying to sell for 3 years, and every time it's about to go on the market, something happens, which I end up dealing with. Like it flooded, the ceiling caved through, like weird shit kept happening. And now it was finally on the market, but there was no one looking at it, which is weird in and of itself, because it's like a great time for, and it's a really great house. So it was weird that it wasn't selling. I mean, that no one was interested. And I just heard yesterday that someone was going to look at it today. So there was some movement, and I got home from working in this appointment, and uh, these two messages, and I just started crying, and I was like, what is this? What are these tears about? I felt overwhelmed all of a sudden, and I realized that I um, have been feeling like I need these big transactions to go well, and I've been waiting for them to be finished so that I can feel free. And I realized that that's exactly the mentality that I've been trying to like wake my parents up from. And what I teach, it's like you can't wait for outer circumstances to be good before you're going to feel good. Because it's never going to happen. You're always going to be waiting. It always comes from the inside out. And I've been like, telling my parents that, like trying to say like, oh, it's your fear that's like causing this shit to happen with these business in this house. Like you need to like let go, and your peace and your sense of abundance cannot come from these money and all this stuff, and because there's always going to be another thing, and your life shows that, and this and that. And yet I just realized like I'm I'm doing the same thing by putting my ability to focus completely on my own work and my own happiness, um, as dependent, as like contingent upon, like I want my parents to be good, I want them to be set, and it's been this like weight that's been sometimes in the forefront of my mind, but like on the back of my mind and in my body for a long, like for my probably my whole life. And I've been looking at it in layers, and I've definitely had some distance from it, like a lot less enmeshed in it than I used to be. But yesterday, when I started crying, it showed me like how much I'm still bound by that hun. It's like a way to show love. Like I can't even, like I even talked to my brother about it today, and he's like, "Well, how could you not be like that? You're their daughter. Like I'm their son. Like almost like to not be that involved is to not love." And this is the rub, right? This is like what we're all. It's like as soon as you kind of start to when you're answering what life is calling you to do, or becoming and waking up to who you really are, it it requires all of you. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't include other people. Like your calling might be to be a mom, and my calling might be to take care of my parents. But it's not right now. I know that life is calling me to direct my energy into embodying what I teach, which is to be free to follow your soul's calling. And when I feel indebted to my parents, or that somehow I'm not being loving, like I would be involved with these things and then be like, well, they've given me so much, and they're immigrants and they're older and they need help, and so of course I'm going to be the one to do it. I'm more capable. But then, and then I would feel guilty when sometimes I was tired or I didn't feel like doing it, or I would be short with them. And then I'd beat myself up, like, gosh, you can't even do a good job with this or whatever. And it's like the energy, all of the energy that takes up. And I just realized it's like, and I've realized this, over and over, but it's like, again, there's layers. It's like, for me to really show up for them. I mean, even, soon they really are going to be at a time where they maybe cannot take care of themselves. And for me to really be able to show up fully for them then, and not always be like one foot in, one foot out, like I need to fully allow myself the space and energy to like be myself, and not, and if I'm going to support them, not coming from a place of, I have to, because if I don't, like, like, like that, my happiness depends on this, right? Like if the sale doesn't go through, or if my parents suffer, like then I can't be happy. That's not freedom. And because like really, like what if I died tomorrow? What if they died tomorrow? Like either way, we can't be indebted to each other. And so that's been a deep lesson for me. And so for me, like the process of like my of creativity is always like the kind of my touchstone. And so the story that I've been writing is called The Rebirth of the Golden Queen, and it had all of these different variations, and I wasn't kind of pinning it down to one, because they all kind of made sense, and I was like, oh, maybe it's supposed to just be this like kind of like choose your own adventure, like different trajectories, because that's what life is like. But I was getting the guidance to sit down and just like write it, like choose one. And what came when I finally made myself, I like literally had to make myself do it. It was an ending, and the story took on it went a different direction than I would have expected. So it kind of came from a different place. It wasn't like my mind. Because I know that this story reflects my actual life, and so I was kind of trying to make it like what I wanted. Like, oh, the queen, finds this king, and they live together happily. I mean, I literally was like doing, when I tried to first like pick one, I picked that, but it wouldn't work. Like it just wasn't making sense as a story. And then something else came through, and when I read it back, I was like, oh, that's not really what I would have chosen. With my small me would have chosen. So I, in that story, the turning point for the queen is when she cries. She lets herself cry instead of kind of running away from her life and her family. She just stays put and cries, and then from those tears, something grows, and then she starts to turn away from the home that she once knew, and begins to start this other life. And eventually, it does bring like prosperity and happiness to everyone and to her original home. But she doesn't know that at the time. And so yesterday, when all these tears were coming, like kind of unexpectedly, like I felt like looked at this stuff with my family for a long time, and so I was surprised at it, and I was like, oh wow, this is what's happening. It's like there's something coming from these tears. Okay, 잠깐만. And so I took a walk, and I asked the universe, like, if I'm really free, if I'm really setting myself free, because I'm like, I've gone through this a lot, give me a sign. And so I took a walk, and I didn't feel anything, and then I sat on this bench, and I noticed this bug on the arm of this bench, and its position was kind of interesting. So I looked at it, but it looked like a tick to me. So I was actually kind of disgusted. And I thought, I guess I'd look up what ticks mean. But yeah, I was disgusted. But then I remembered, this practice of like seeing everything as equal to me, like every bug, every rock, you know, things that seem um, lifeless, like everything is life and everything is equal to me and everything else. And so I stared at it and I sent the my energy of just like respecting and honoring it as equal to me. And then and that was it. So today, this morning, I pick cards, and the card I pick is the Moon card. It's from this deck. The Moon card, and the Moon. So I have a great affinity with the Moon, and as we all do, whether we're conscious of it or not. But the in my story, the Queen, when she cries, she cries with the Moon, and the Moon card is about looking deep within and facing the darkness, like the voyage to go right to your center and like face your greatest fear. So when I picked this morning, I was like, oh great, like more stuff. Um, but when I on the card there's a scarab. It's a dung beetle, and then all of a sudden I knew that the bug I had seen was a dung beetle, which is a scarab, and a scarab actually represents both gold and silver, and the kingdom of prosperity in my story is of gold and silver. And apparently, gold and silver stands for the sun and the moon. And so the scarab is about the ability to regenerate oneself, to be able to dig deep and then to persevere